Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. Today I've got a special opportunity to visit with Tales from the Cryptmancer, and we're going to be chatting about like all things Splinterlands truly, but we're going to start with a previous comment from a recent video where I covered soulbound cards, and I was talking about how soulbound cards are particularly valuable, and it's leveraging the opportunity to win more if you can unlock them. And so maybe there's opportunities for you to either play more, earn more, get more, or have more fun too. And I just was like really arguing that the soulbounds are satisfying and they help and they move the needle in terms of your game experience as well as your game reward. And that was what I was attempting to speak into. And it was a successful video. And Tails dropped a very thoughtful comment, which I think is pushing on some of maybe my conceptions or my positions. And we had some back and forth, and I did another video later, like pressing that issue. But Tails said before we went live, first of all, welcome Tails. And second of all, you said before we went live that hopefully this conversation can get us to a place where we each have an easier time and a better time of articulating one another's positions, because a 3-sentence comment, it's so hard to encapsulate the fullness of your concerns and maybe optimism too, both two sides of that. And so can I give this to you and say, you know, within the context of soulbound reward cards, within like this context of this video that I shared recently 7 days ago, and I shared an optimism there about what these were and what they could do and why I wanted more of them. And you dropped this comment. Maybe I can read it and you can kind of, and I'll let you just go where you want with this. The comment said,
yeah, sure.
Observation, 2021's general Web3 concept was play to earn. 2024's updated concept is pay to earn. Only those games that are inherently fun will survive. Everything else will be an unsustainable Ponzi as money in the ecosystem eventually dries up. It is a little concerning that a majority of Splinterlands battles and players are currently coming from Wild League, which might indicate that many players are botting their accounts rather than actually playing the game. Help me understand. I know what I thought you were saying, but help me understand or maybe expound on what your maybe concerns or thoughts about soulbound reward cards or player-based shift from modern to wild, or whatever piece of that, whatever thread you want to pull on more, please. I'm going to give you some space, and just thank you for coming, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Dwayne. And really what, unfortunately my content on my YouTube channel hasn't been very much recently, just because I've had a lot going on personally that I've been working on and dealing with. So, a lot of what I'm able to contribute, I kind of push to X, and I'll comment on videos in the Splinterlands kind of content creator side, like your videos, After Sound videos, and other creator videos, just kind of dropping my thoughts as I'm listening to videos when I get a chance. And that's why I really started this comment with, the word observation, right? Because I wanted to kind of just jot down my thoughts as I was listening to your video, because I think you were talking about soulbound reward cards and how it was changing the game and how it's, this new way of looking at Web3 and how Splinterlands is moving forward. And, I think that was, you were making good points in the video, but at the same time, I had kind of my own thoughts on what that meant for past Web3 and current Web3 and the future of Web3. And so really what this comment was really kind of saying was really a couple things. It was really probably 3 or 4 things in this comment. And, starting off is, talking about 2021. And in 2021, which is when I joined Splinterlands and really kind of got introduced to Web3 along with many others, the concept at that time was play to earn, right? Where you spent the time, you played to earn, there's token airdrops. In this case, it was SPS token air being, essentially airdropped. And it was kind of like the Wild Wild West. It was a bull run at that time in 2021, and like summer, kind of before fall of 2021. And, everything goes up kind of mentality, right? Yeah. And it was a good time. But what we've seen, after this kind of sustained bear run, as we look at 2024 and we look at projects that are up and coming, that are, being eyed as maybe the next darlings of the next, crypto bull run, whenever that may or may not happen, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the concept has been updated to really be, instead of play to earn, it's more about pay to earn. And when I say pay to earn, and I'll give you some examples of what I mean by this, Splinterlands itself now is kind of pay to earn. If we think about it, to earn now in the game, you can't use starter cards, right? There's not this unending ECR to print from, right? Bots have been tackled for I wouldn't say defeated, but they've been started to be addressed, right? So this concept of just printing value out of nowhere where people can abuse it and do that indefinitely has been changed to now there's a wild pass where you have to kind of like simply pay to earn. If you got to have skin in the game to get, to participate in the earning part of the ecosystem, you need to have SPS. You need to not have, starter cards. These are all things that are integrated in Splinterlands today. That's different than 2021, certainly. Other projects are doing the same thing. So you look at Parallel, for example, they have a free-to-play version of the game like Hearthstone that you don't need to buy anything and you're perfectly fine to play the game that way. But if you want to earn Prime Token in that game, you have to own NFTs. So you have to pay to get those NFTs to earn in that game. Otherwise, well, you basically don't earn. You look at Illuvium, what they're doing on the Illuvium side, you have to basically pay fuel to go to stages of the game where you can get NFTs and sell those NFTs and earn. They have a free-to-play version of the game, but your earnings are capped or very small because you're not paying into it. And Kieran from Illuvium, who's the CEO at Illuvium, has come out and said, hey, for us to be sustainable, this is kind of what we need to do as we see as the future of Web3. And this is, and there's all kinds of videos and interviews on that. You look at other games out there. I mean, there's pretty much any game that wants to be sustainable in 2024 when it comes to Web3 has a concept of, basically having skin in the game or pay to earn, basically. Now, there's certainly play to airdrop stuff going on out there. But honestly, I personally avoid those because I think they're pump and dumps and not destined to success or sustainability. But that's kind of the first thing, right? Now, the next part of my comment, when we talk about only games that are inherently fun will survive, and everything else is really just an unsustainable Ponzi, in the ecosystem with money drying up, is really when I look at Splinterlands, and I've had this conversation on my channel previously. When you look at Splinterlands, it's not a traditional product, right? And when I say that, it's not like a product we would think of like a farmer, for example, sells corn, right? They produce corn, they have costs, they sell corn to people who want corn to eat, right? As an example, and they get money and they make more money ideally than they paid to make the corn. So they are able to make a living. And whether that's a farmer, whether that's a company, whatever. Obviously that doesn't count for government subsidies, but the point is traditional businesses have products that they sell, consumers buy them, and they make a profit, and they continue to be in business, right? We understand that as a concept. That doesn't apply to Web3 in gaming necessarily, and in fact, it doesn't apply directly because what people get from games is not a physical product that they can use or consume or eat or anything like that, or a TV that they can use, whatever. They get entertainment, right? And when we're here, we're part of Web3 gaming. So if you just look at the sustainability part of that equation, for Web3 gaming to survive, you need a source of revenue that is not based on a crypto market. Meaning, for sustainable Web3 gaming, you have to survive bear markets. You can certainly thrive in bull markets, but bull markets are generally fast, explosive, and then they lead to extended bears, which we've seen in Splinterlands here, right, since 2021. So my point here is, for a company to be sustainable and last multiple cycles, multiple bears and bulls, the game needs to be inherently fun to survive because it's from a monetary perspective. You can't just keep paying value out and have everyone make money. Right, from an investment perspective. Definitely. Some people need to pay into the game through cosmetics or gameplay loops or whatever else, and just be happy with getting entertainment out of the game. Right? Rather than, because crypto tokens don't always go up, right? So from an investment perspective, if you can't always add new players, you have to have a player base that is fine to pay money, not necessarily to get monetary advantage back. Being able to sell their assets when they want to exit is certainly valuable, but they need to be, having fun in the game. And my point here is if you if you are not having fun in the game or not willing to put money into a game,
Mm-hmm.
the sustainability of that game over a long period of time with bear markets and stuff in Web3 is you're not going to have a sustainable company. You're not going to have a sustainable ecosystem or a sustainable game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said games that aren't inherently fun and have engaged player bases, right, that are willing to contribute without necessarily making money, or at least a subset of their audience, they need to supplement that with other forms of revenue. I'll give you an example of how that can be done. Like, let's say, Parallel does tournaments on the weekends, for example. They have sponsors. They have basically sponsors in the ecosystems that will sponsor tournament prizes. If they give away $50,000 on a weekend for a tournament, some of that is coming from the sponsors that do ads and advertisements on their Twitch streams of that tournament. So they're getting basically marketing or ad revenue from partners. And that's a way that a game can supplement, earnings and sustain itself. Otherwise, if you're not adding players, right? If you're not adding players, you basically have a tulip Ponzi scheme where once your players stop coming into the ecosystem, the game invariably will not be sustainable and will die, because as no more money comes in and players leave, you don't have that revenue. It just is not sustainable at that point. It is a true Ponzi at that point. If the only way your business survives is by adding new players so that new money comes in, and you can't bring new players in, it's over, right? And here's where we kind of tie this all together with my thought was, when I look at Splinterlands, the observation that I had, what was a little concerning to me as I look at this, is the number of actual players. We know our player base is not that large. I think we can probably agree with that.
Yes, we can.
It's not super big, right?
I've said, and I will say again, it's encouraging if we're honest about what sort of growth we have seen. It's not what we want, but man, going from literally dozens, like probably 300 people, to probably 3,000 to 5,000 is not nothing. It's not negligible. It's not to be ignored. It's substantial. I think it's important to sort of hold that, but also simultaneously it is minuscule. And so I agree, it's tiny. Right. And if we're going to succeed, 5,000 is not the goal. Probably 50,000 is not the goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so big growth is probably necessary for what you or I would imagine a victory would look like in Splinterlands or any Web3 gaming.
Yeah, I mean, we want to add developers to the team. We want to grow the game modes and the fun of the game. And, to do that, you probably need either a very engaged core base of players that are having fun with the game and willing to buy whatever the game sells us because we love the game, or you need to add more players and add more developers, and just becomes a good positive growth company. But here's where I was being, I guess, not bearish, but I was just kind of, in the comment that I was kind of concerned personally, because if we look at the Wild League versus the Modern League, and we can probably say that maybe a larger percentage of Wild players are using like an Xbot or an Archmage or some kind of botting service to play in Wild. Perhaps not all, but certainly probably more than 50%, right? And if a majority of the players and battles are happening in Wild, what does that say to the engagement of the average player within our ecosystem? Are they playing every day? When that new promo card comes out, or when that new skin comes out, or whenever something new comes out, are they rushing to buy it and smash that, purchase button because they got to have it to play tonight when they get back in the game? Or are they just letting their bot run, and if the bot doesn't use a promo card, they're like, oh, who cares, right? So the point here that I was trying to make is, if we're seeing large numbers of Wild League players that are using automation to quote earn in the game or play the game for the player, because the player itself is disconnected and doesn't have the time to play the game or whatever, that's, which is fine. I'm not passing judgment on that. I mean, I use a bot right now that's in Wild, that's cool, but I'm not engaged personally. I'm not playing Modern daily. I'm not doing tournaments. That's just me personally, so I'm not engaged. I play my brawls, yeah. I still play my brawls for my guild all the time. But, if our Modern player base, let's say it's 500 to 1,000 players, and it's, let's say, 25% or less of the total player base, it's concerning because, again, going back to my original point, only those games that are inherently fun, will survive and be sustainable in Web3.
Mhm.
And what I'm seeing is the trends of the game being that players are leaving, new players aren't necessarily coming in, existing players are botting more than playing the game. You don't have that passion necessarily within the community. Those are warning signs to me that we need to be aware of, right? And I
Sure.
say we as not necessarily the community, but more the team should be aware of to say, okay, how can we address this? How can we get ahead of this,
Mhm.
right? Because this is something that we should address. And where I would, okay, let me take a step back. I've said in my videos very recently that I think a lot of the changes that have been made in the economy and some of the decisions and stuff that have been made are moving the ball forward. Like we're paying some of that debt, whether it
Yes,
be
totally.
overhang of cards or DEC or vouchers, or getting to a more sustainable economy and kind of burning stuff that we shouldn't burn because we have too much of it. These are all positive aspects to the game, and it's about kind of some short-term pain for long-term gain type of cycle that we're in right now in the near term. But I do feel that Matt has done what's necessary to get us into a better spot moving forward, to get that sustainable game and tokenomics stuff kind of in order. However, and if you've, I mean, you know me and you've followed my channel, I'm very, I would say, logical and rational in my thoughts, and I'm not always rose-colored glasses. I'm just I'm a realistic person. I see the good, I see the bad, and where I see concerns for Splinterlands is the development time is slow compared to other projects. The turnaround to get stuff done is, just being honest, is it's not fast, and we're falling behind. And when we're looking to compete with other Web3 projects out there, they're going to be flashier, sexier, more, higher quality, let's say, game environments or styles or whatever you want to call it. If we're not developing stuff and pushing stuff out, we're going to be at a disadvantage, and it's going to hurt our long-term growth and sustainability options. Again, going back to fun, the one thing that we have as all players in Web3, we have limited time. Some of us, time is more of a limiting factor than money, right? For some of us. And no matter how you slice or dice it, time is a limiting factor. Whether you work or have a family or whatever, I mean, you only have so much time to play Web3 games. And I would argue that you can probably only, like an average person, probably only has the ability to play like games on a regular daily basis. Maybe, I mean, hour-wise, maybe like an hour.
Yep.
Maybe 2 at max. And if you have to divide that up between like more than one Web3 game, it gets increasingly difficult to do. So the fight for attention in a bull market or a more saturated Web3 market where there's more options than in 2021 will be a challenge for Splinterlands. And we have to be realistic in the fact that the game hasn't really changed since I have started playing the game. And people say, well, that's crazy, Tails. The game's changed a lot. And what you're showing the screen in front of me is showing me that it's not changed, because it's still the same battles. It's ranked battles, it's tournaments and brawls. Those are the only game modes we have, and they haven't changed. What's changed are the cards that are available to us that we can play, the abilities and the rule sets. But that's not really changing the game or the fun or adding new utility to the cards or the tokens or anything like that. And that's where I go back to engagement. For us to be, I think, in Splinterlands, to really ramp up the players and the engagement and the excitement, we need more fun in the game. New game modes, whatever that happens to be, sealed deck tournaments, boss modes, whatever. I mean, we've already talked about this ad nauseum in other, conversations across the community. But the point is, the development time is slow. We don't have new fun and engaging game modes. We've seen that Splinterlands can introduce sinks and burns in the game that players want to participate in, but we're not seeing enough of them fast enough to really gear up stuff. Because if you're asking for a player to sacrifice a card, sacrifice a token, there needs to be something in the game that they're getting out of that from an entertainment perspective, if not a monetary perspective, that's going to encourage them to do that. We're not getting these things, and if we're getting them, we're not getting them fast enough. So that goes back to my original point was, I see a little bit of concern. If we want to be sustainable, we really need to focus on engagement and fun factors. Yeah, you can focus on marketing and new player experience, but I got to tell you, being out here in Web3 and looking at other projects and participating in them, getting people's attention, whether they be Web3 or non-Web3, is super difficult. And no amount of marketing budget is going to help you unless you have a fun game. And it just starts and stops right there. The buck stops there. And I'll let you speak, but that's kind of the gist of my comment. So hopefully that helps explain it a little bit more. I know your title was a little clickbaity. I certainly wasn't saying the game was going to fail, but I think it has challenges ahead of it that need to be properly addressed for us to really be successful here.
Yeah. I mean, I would share that sentiment. I think maybe the thing I'd say before, I have thoughts on a few different, you kind of made 3 major points, maybe 4, but I have some thoughts on each. But I would, before I went into that, I'd just like to say, from my perspective, you said, you see yourself as like logic first, like thinking through with an eye, not seeking criticism, but certainly, being realistic to where criticism is important and justified, because again, logic first. It's not feelings. It's not, it's not like, do I like these people? Do I like this, this space? Do I like whatever my community who support me because I cover YouTube, Splinterlands content? No, it's like logic first. And I think people often will say about me, in my opinion, in my experience, people will say about you that you are quite critical. And in my experience, people will say I'm quite, I'm never critical, or I'm not critical enough. And just like you, I kind of feel like I'm not accurate, because I hear in you describing yourself in that. First of all, I agree with you. I agree with your own assessment of who and what and how you cover it. And I think it's the way that the people characterize you as being particularly bearish or negative or critical is more a comment on their desire to see, the hopeful and set aside some of the concern. And people will say, for me, I'm too, not critical enough. And yet I say of myself that no, I'm seeking after logic. I'll have, debates with my commenters, with people who I strongly disagree with, not because I want to get into a fight with somebody, but because I actually hope that two people who have different opinions can sort something out and learn something from one another in a way that ends up being a meaningful piece of content for the community who loves Splinterlands. And so I don't come to this conversation or to that video or, my responses to you. I'm being a little playful with some of those, like the thumbnails and whatnot. But at the same time, that's just, I'm trying to be fun and have entertainment as well as the real. But I do think, I agree that logic is where I see you coming from, and it is where I'm trying to come from. If I'm not, I'm trying. And yet I feel like we're so far, we're worlds apart in terms of a couple key things. And that's okay. That's just, again, it's good when if everybody had the same opinion on these things, that would either be because it's dead and no one talks about it, or it'd be because it's already the cornerstone video game in the universe and no one who doesn't play Splinterlands. And those two realities are so far from where we are. And so of course there's going to be every topic, the voucher market, getting rid of vouchers. We talked before we went live. That's, the modern league bonuses or the wild league, play, even the fact that there is a modern league and a wild league, there's just every issue that's possible to look at within the development choice of what this game is currently is going to drive division between, hopefully, well-meaning individuals. And I think that's what you and I are. But 3 quick things, with respect to what you said here today. You made 3 key points. you talked about we were play to earn. That was like the whole thing. The brand / hashtag play to earn, or play and earn, wasn't it? Was that the original? The idea like being play first, it's a game, have fun, and there's opportunity for earning. That was definitely a sales pitch. I remember that's probably 2021 going back, I would think. And we're clearly not.
Yeah, the high post that Splinterlands, paid us to basically write on a weekly basis. The hashtag was play the number to earn, right? Because that was what it was. So.
Yeah. And, the game has changed so much in so many ways. And we'd have to really go into probably a 2-hour conversation just about those changes and then, rehash the debate about whether each of them was beneficial or not. And that's not going to be like entertaining or maybe fruitful even. But I would say that, clearly, we made design decisions along the way that led us to a different place now. And I would argue we are still playing and earning, but a lot of the earnings are not what people traditionally are going to, and even some of the people like that love my channel are going to agree with me that they're not going to say it's earnings because it's not significant, it's not meaningful, it's not consequential. Those would be some of the language they might apply to it. And we look at that one of those battles I showed on the champion leaderboard, 50 SPS. And I know SPS is at like 7/10 of a penny. But man, that's pretty cool. And I guess part of it is like that future concern. Do we think SPS is going to get somewhere meaningful? Because if we do, accruing it while it has an inconsequential price tag shouldn't really matter. So I would, on point number one, I might say, there's a little bit of subjectivity around this idea of like whether or not there's a significant reward associated with it. And I was in that original video pointing to the soulbound cards as one factor that I think I don't hear anybody talk about soulbound cards as if they're a meaningful financial reward. And yet they absolutely help you win more. And if they help you win more and there's a monetary reward for winning, then we should acknowledge that the soulbound reward cards are a financial opportunity. And so this is like less important to me, but that's one point I wanted to share. Maybe there's 2 other points, and I'll be much faster with those because I don't want to just go essay for essay. Point number 2, you talked about entertainment is key. The game has to be fun if it's going to survive, and you're totally right. Just 100% flat. That's true, period. And I think the question that I come to when I hear that is, but for me, it is fun. And so that's why I say things like Splinterlands is fun and rewarding. And I a moment ago alluded to the rewarding piece. The SPS, while financially inconsequential today, could be meaningful in the future. The cards themselves are exciting and entertaining, and they allow me to win more. So there's financial reward, in my opinion, that I consider, if not exciting today, like potentially exciting. And I'm willing to actually invest my time, which you alluded to as being like, often that's one of our greatest limits, like how much time we have. I'm willing to spend some time playing this thing regularly, if not daily, even 6 years into it. And so I do think it's fun. And now that, of course, that's subjective. Same as the reward part piece. Like point 1 is, are we getting any meaningful earnings? Is there an play and earn capacity here? Well, subjective answer. I think the rewards are meaningful. Point number 2, is there entertainment or is the game fun? And I didn't really hear you say it's not, but you're bringing up a little bit of the bots and saying, I'm not playing too much. And I don't think you think it's not entertaining, but I'm hearing you say, maybe you could help me understand if I'm wrong. It's not as exciting as maybe some of the competition. And that was another big piece you alluded to as well. Whether we point at the bots in Wild, whether we point at the number of accounts in Wild as opposed to the accounts in Modern, what that implies about people investing their own attention, their time and attention into the game, not just automation, but actual play, and what that would mean for people really loving and enjoying. And I think you're right. That's an interesting and like probably logical sort of litmus test for how much we really find this game fun.
And I think the promo cards and some of these new card sales that are coming up are going to tell us what the community thinks, right? Because, we can say that I love the game or you love the game and we're going to play the game and we're engaged. we don't see the analytics that the team sees as far as engagement about, you know, any of the metrics on Twitter or YouTube or, you know, within the game, the transactions and stuff. They have much more visibility to that in analytics and kind of can make their own kind of understanding of what's happening in the game. What I can tell you is if the game was very fun and the community was very engaged, a majority of the community would look to purchase things that would further their enjoyment of the game. So these promo cards, these you know, things that have been released here and just in the last, I think, maintenance window, how they sell, I think will tell a good story. Like if these sell reasonably well, that means we have a very engaged audience that want these cards, want to play with these cards, and you know, everything's good. If we're seeing that these are not selling well compared to the number of battles and players that we think we have, then it tells something different, right? And this is going back to my point is, you know, if we want to have a game that's sustainable, that's here in the future, right? That sees our values of our assets not go to zero, right? The company needs to make sure that players stay engaged. They stay playing the game. They're having fun. They want to buy assets. They want to buy skins. They want to have a trophy room. They want to have a battle pass. They want to do all this stuff. Otherwise, it just becomes, you know, people become detached and say, oh, I just bought in Wild. I'm not going to buy any Rebellion cards. I'm not going to buy any mini set rewards. I'm not going to be playing Modern. I don't care about it. I'm just going to buy my stuff and get my SPS and let it run, basically. That's bad. That's not sustainable. That's not something that's going to be around in 4 or 5 years, right? And let's take a step back as well for a second, right? I mean, I know there's been a lot of positive sentiment coming out of the last town hall. And I had a conversation with Steve about this, you know, privately. And he'll tell you, you know, coming out of that town hall, I know Steve and, you know, Aftersound and others in the community were very hyped and very excited about that town hall. And I came out of it the exact opposite. I was honestly concerned because what I was seeing and what I was hearing, if I take out all the biases of, you know, what I've invested in the game, time-wise, emotionally, financially, whatever, you know, my love of the game, my love of the community, if I put all that bias aside, if I put, you know, what I know of the game aside, if I just look at the facts, right? If I look at a company that's saying, hey, you know, we're asking for money to pay developers that for something that we were developing but can't afford anymore. We're asking, you know, partners in our ecosystem to fund our marketing budget because we can't afford it anymore. If I'm the CEO of the company and I say I'm not good at this job but I have to do it and I can't find a replacement to do it because I'm getting basically paid barely minimum wage just to get benefits for my family, that's a warning sign. Like if this was a company that I was investing in, you know, as part of my retirement portfolio, I'm already moving on to the next company because I want nothing to do with it because it's a big risk, right? You know, I've got a CEO that says, hey, you know, I have bad days where I'm like, why am I doing this? And that's scary to me. Now I know Matt's honest, he's transparent, and that's just Matt, and that's great. I love that about Matt. But at the same time, it's scary because if Matt just wakes up one day and says, I've had enough of these internet trolls and hecklers, I'm out, I can't take it anymore, I'm going to start a new business, or I'm going to do something else, and I'm gone, that's not necessarily a zero chance possibility. And it's scary because where does that leave the game at that point, right? So these are things that concern me, right, objectively. And I know there's a lot of positive sentiment out there, but I mean, it's not all roses, right? I mean, crypto is, you know, a volatile area, and we know the company has financial challenges that they haven't been able to rectify and address. So it tells me that, you know, again, more warning signs to say, hey, you know, caution, you know, turns ahead, you know, drive slowly kind of stuff, right? So at the same time, I still, you know, say that the game is doing right things, but it's not without risk. And I just, you know, I know I've seen some of the comments in your videos where people say, hey, you know, you've got a following here on YouTube, and to be responsible, you shouldn't really be so optimistic and, you know, be so bullish. And, you know, because people could, you know, make bad decisions. And I know you and I as content creators, we always say, hey, this is our journey, this is our story, this is my opinion. you have to make your own decisions and do whatever you want to do. Don't listen to me. I'm just some guy on the internet, right? But I think it's fair, because you can have those opinions, and you can say, this is how I feel and this is what I think, and I will say the same thing. But everyone needs to make their own decisions and their own analysis here in this space. So
yeah, and so that's why it's really valuable to see both sides of the coin, or to listen to different people who have different opinions on these things. And sometimes the audience will get salty about, even recently I had somebody like just make let's say a disparaging remark because I was referencing another content creator, and they don't like that content creator, I guess. And there's like, this implication of like, they don't know what they're talking about because I heard them say something I disagree with. And so to me, if you consider Splinterlands more than just a game you play, and to me, one of the beauties is that it's not just a game, but it is a game and it is fun. And I like that piece, and I'll hold that, and I will never retreat from that as long as I continue to, like 6 years later, I'm playing this thing, and enjoying it. So it is a game, it is fun, and I'm going to hold that, but I'm also going to hold, and I'm going to point to, and I'm going to celebrate the fact that it's a financial opportunity. And again, circling back to some of the things I alluded to in my previous video, as well as even in our conversation, there's a lot of subjective opinion about whether those rewards are meaningful or not, substantial or not, consequential or not. But to me, they are, because I do, and that doesn't mean like, they are because of the potential wrapped in them. At 0.7 cent SPS, I'm not sending it. I'm not selling it. I'm not getting any financial reward out of it. Even if I did, there's a whole 4-week unstake process. Also, the soulbound cards, I need to pay money to unlock. I recently heard Axler Twinblade, Baron's Toolbox come in and say that, I'm not going to pay $5 to want to sell the card for $4. There's just so much, days, weeks, months mentality. And I talk about that a lot on the channel with respect to the reward potential. This person, Maisie, won 44 SPS. Is that worth, 30 cents, or is that worth $40? The question in my mind is a matter of when you ask it. And I really believe that. Like, now, that doesn't mean I'm promising, nor am I believing with 100% certainty that SPS reaches $1 at some point in the future. It just means that if I could have a 300,000K SPS bag, which is worth $2,000 today, which by the way, I do have, right there, I got, in fact, I have 350, but if I could have a 300K SPS bag and I could sell it, or I could have $2,000 US, I want that SPS. I think the game is fun enough. It justifies my enjoyment and participation in it. I think the rewards are meaningful enough, and I think the potential is significant enough. Now, that package has to be considered by everybody based on all these factors. You touched on Matt and maybe his, the tenuous nature of his capacity to hold that, the monetary nature, let's say the, what's the word I'm stretching for? The team's runway. However much money they have, that matters. These are factors that you can actually look at. But to me, those are all like, second level, third level studies, in the conversation. The base level, the foundational conversation has to be, do you, John Doe, think this game is fun and rewarding? Like, meaning, do you actually find enjoyment in the process? And again, like I said to you, as a response to you in that one FAQ video, which followed, I said something like, the battle mechanic is not the only experience within the game. It's certainly a meaningful piece of what Splinterlands is. It is like the cornerstone of what Splinterlands is. You submit your team and you watch and see what happens. You build that team, you submit the team, and you see what happens. But and I think you would agree, that there's a real gamification of the tokenization, how you handle your SPS bag, whether you're doing, even now with DEC being below peg, there has been historically, and there are currently now, opportunities to do triaging, moving in to buy packs at like a lower US dollar value, because if you have fiat, there's just different ways to approach, and those are not a game, but they're a gamification of a financial asset. And so people find entertainment in different pieces of what this is, and it's hard to put our finger on what, like, how do we quantify them. I do agree, though, to maybe give you some space here. You said, let's see what some of these sales do, because these promo cards are a new moment and maybe a litmus test, or like a blank sheet a bit to see what are we going to do with this. Like these are pretty exciting cards. What do people, are they going to buy them? Are they not going to buy them? And if they don't buy them, what does that mean? That's going to give us more information about the team's runway, for one thing. Actually, are these runway, is this paying the team, or is this going to DAO? I forget. All these new promo cards.
Well, my understanding is on the voucher one, that's going to the DAO because we already paid for that, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, no, that was the promo card we paid. I think it was 250,000. I forget it's what the exact dollar amount, but the DAO paid for that card already. So, and I'm pretty sure it was the voucher one, because this whole voucher maintenance exploit, I mean, basically hurt the DAO, because basically, it's money
time.
that would have been real money going to the DAO with real vouchers. All this, 2 million vouchers printed out of thin air. I mean, people were getting like, I guess max level promo cards for like, $20 or something, when it would obviously be a lot more than that if they were real vouchers at the real market price. So it's just, lost opportunity, but that's a separate topic altogether, right?
We should maybe talk about that a little bit, though. I don't know if there's, go ahead. If you have something, I just wanted to say, if you have more to talk on, like the back and forth about your position, my position, I feel I'm hearing from you like a real, like, let's just be realistic and reasonable, and not saying critical, but let's not forget, let's not overlook the challenges we know this team is facing. We know you're right about Matt. And he's said on town halls, like, I didn't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I do this because I love this game. And he said, like, I want to do this for a year, and that year is fast approaching, but there's no one else who can take it. And so everything you said, I fully agree with. And yet that doesn't mean there's not exciting potential. It does mean you got to be careful.
Sure.
It just, but I take all that in. People say I got rose-colored glasses, but what I'm saying to you, and I think you know this about me, but what I'm saying, like, explicitly, I think I've considered all that. And I go, I'd rather have my $2,000 in SPS. I'd rather bet on Matt and see what happens. And that might not be the right move, but it's the move I'm excited to make, man. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, as a content creator, and we've talked about it. I mean, I think you're kind of, use your YouTube channel, your platform to tell your story, tell your opinion. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, I use my channel and give my opinion and my story, and as content creators, that's what we can do. We can help players come into the game. We can describe the game. We can give tips. We can give our opinion. Other than that, we're just along for the ride. We're not creating the game. We're not controlling the crypto market. At least I'm not. Maybe you are, Dwayne. I don't know. You're back in the in your office pulling levers and stuff. I don't know, but. We're just here to, provide our opinion. I think it's good to have within a community and different points of view. Yeah. And not to be in an echo chamber. Yeah. And for our viewers to make their own decisions, make their own opinion, add comments, engage, right? You see the engagement in your videos. While not everyone may agree with you, they're watching your videos, they're listening to your opinion. Maybe they're pushing back a little on some videos, or maybe they're agreeing with you on other videos, right? But the point is we're talking about Splinterlands, the game, and you're providing basically your perspective on it, and that's what this is from our kind of seeding, right? This is what we can do. Now, certainly we can bring to the community's, I guess, awareness of topics that might be of concern or of interest, and maybe that gets back to the team, and maybe the team, may not have realized it otherwise, and maybe looks into it. Maybe that's the best case scenario of what we can do to slowly nudge the game, forward. But at the end of the day, we're here to tell our story, give our tips, help the viewers, and whatever they do with it at that point is, that's what they can take away from it. So
it's what you said about me. It's been a while since bargain hunting videos move the needle on the marketplace. But there's definitely, this is a tiny system. And when people leave comments like that, like in my, because I saw a recent comment, somebody saying something about me and my content and be careful, like people, I don't take that with, I don't disregard that concern, but I also really, really hope that anybody who's watching me or you or anybody talk about a thing they love, they see the passion that we have, even if it's like a critic, because sometimes criticism comes out of a place of passion. And like if you didn't care about Splinterlands, you wouldn't bring a critical eye to some of the things that you talk about within Splinterlands. If you didn't care about it, you didn't have passion for it, you wouldn't talk about it, period. And so it's exciting to get into conversations around these things we love. And I've said before, one of the amazing things about YouTube is that we get this opportunity to speak about this thing that we love or that we're excited about with a community of people who share that across the globe, and that's cool. And so I love that I can be part of it. I don't take it lightly that there is an opportunity for people to just hear what I say and run with it. But frankly, if somebody's out there is hearing this part of the conversation and saying, like whatever Dwayne says, like Tails is wrong and Dwayne's right, and I'm just going to buy more SPS because it's going to go to $1, that's not ever what I say. That's never what I say. In fact, I'm constantly saying, we're not where we should be. We're not where I want to be. But man, do I still like the possible outcome here? Yeah, I do. And for my story, if you want to just follow at a distance and at arm's length and watch my content and see if I go from 2,000 to 200,000 or if I go from 2,000 to 0, like that's what's on stake here. I'm not trying to Pied Piper people in. And when people leave, I often say things like that's an indication of one of our use cases. It's a good thing. It's a good thing in the sense that if you can leave, Bulldog's leaving, Axo Twin Blade, I've heard about other names. These guys move on, and we go, that sucks. It's such an it's gutting away at the community and the economy. Sure. But man, if there's anything to celebrate within NFT blockchain-based video gaming, it's the fact that you actually own your assets, and that means you have the opportunity to pick and choose when you do or don't leave. That is meaningful. Like if there's something revolutionary here, something worth celebrating, it's that. I don't know if you have anything more to say about that conversation.
I can honestly say that back in the day, you probably remember this, I purchased some Gorlodons back in the day based on a video that you did on that card. We could probably pull it up for nostalgic purposes, yeah. But so you moved my card purchasing market at the time. I didn't have that card. I'm like, man, I'm gonna scoop some of this up, and I couldn't even really use it very well at the time because I would think I was playing like in silver or whatever. But I saw your battles on that at that time. I was like, oh man, maybe I should get this card for the future. And I can honestly say I like never use this card, but I still own it.
I love this card. I still use this all the time. I put it behind, even like this week, I put it behind. I like to use what's that dragon summoner? The new one with. Actually, I'll either use Quicks for the speed, or I'll use the ambush dragon summoner, and then I'll throw my Nightmare in the first position who has phase and like 6 or 7 speed or something in all of my Enrage rule sets. I love that. And if there's enough mana, I put Gorlodon behind there because he just hits like a truck. The only thing that stops this guy is if he runs into a force field. Because of course he just gets nerfed in a major way, but I still love him. I actually want to pull up quickly. What's it called? Splintercoach. I just Splintercoach. I just re-downloaded Splintercoach. Like I had taken a little break, a little hiatus, but I really enjoy looking at the data. This is like, I hope as I talk about this and we talk about a little bit, we joke about Golem and whatever, like the joy. Like I'm truly excited to talk about it. Like now you mentioned Golem. I want to look it up and I'll be like, okay, well, what's my stats on Golem? Because I find, look at there's Nightmare 110 and 80, 582 win record on Nightmare. Where's Golem? Gorladon,
Oh,
where
we're
you at?
scrolling kind of far now.
We are, aren't we? There he is. 42 and 26. It's kind of niche because that 9 mana, but that's a good win record when he plays.
Yeah.
But he doesn't play as often. Like if we scroll back, what number was he? 20, 30 or something like that. He's 34 of my black team. This is just my black team. And mind you, I would play neutrals too. I would play dragons with these guys. So if I added those in, that number would go lower. So it is, I love that.
It's a good record though.
It's pretty,
26 is good. I mean, he's a niche card, right?
Right.
That slow speed and, the high mana cost. So you definitely have to have the right rule set for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like you're using them efficiently. So
positions, I bet number 2 is like where from the reach is where he plays all of the games. Yeah, almost all of them. But melee from any position, probably put him in some other spot. But he just can't be a tank. And with 9 mana, you end up playing a card like that only when you got like 40 to 60 mana, 40 to 90 mana. You can't play a 10 mana card in the second position or in the first with no shield and no phase and with that kind of speed. He has to go in the second. Which means you have to have a main tank in the first, which means you have to have, some mana to play with. All this little side note conversation to me kind of reaffirms at least the joy I'm feeling. And I think a little bit the joy that you still have. I hear you like there's a little laugh and you know what I mean? Like, do you still enjoy the game? Like you're not playing very much, you said, but guild brawl battles, I'm
still playing brawls. Yeah.
Where is the game at within the context of your mind? From it being like, how do you respond to this sentence? The Splinterlands is fun.
There, I would say my genuine feeling is it is fun, but my expectations, given how much time I've been here, I think it should be funner. And my concern is the other Web3 games in the space. I'm playing them actively because they are fun as well. And I would say they are funner.
That's
Splinterlands,
a great
yes,
answer.
it's still fun. Yeah, it's just, again, it's a time thing, right? I mean, there's only so much time in the day for gaming. And, you got to prioritize, what's, your, where you're having the most fun. And, so Splinterlands is still fun. I mean, I still follow the game and I still play the game, obviously, but and you've got my Twitter up here. I've got a bunch of stuff up there. I've got parallel stuff. I've got Illuvium stuff. I've got Metalcore stuff. I mean, those are 3 games that I enjoy, and they're all different types of games, and they're all very fun. And, there's not enough time in the day to play 4 Web3 games.
Yeah.
just not enough.
Yeah, I've heard about all of those games. I have played none of them. And I would like to expand my interest and reach within the blockchain-based video gaming space. Not just from like a coverage and like a, YouTube opportunity, but yes, because of that. But man, just because I really think there's something meaningful. I pointed to with Splinterlands, it's exciting that you can own these assets, that you have ownership over them. You can do something with them, sell them, rent them, use them, And so Splinterlands is not, I don't see it in isolation within, that sort of genre at all, but I just don't have time to tackle the other things. I would almost love to hear, like, especially, I think for a year, maybe 2 years, I've been talking, I want to learn more about Illuvium, and Parallel I've heard about, but not as nearly as much. But I know nothing about them. You're finding entertainment over there?
I am definitely, and if you ever want to spend some time, I can spend some time on Discord and get you looped in, and we can talk about it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, it's all about time. I mean, we've got family stuff going on, we've got job stuff going on, we got life stuff going on, and it's hard to stay kind of up to date on all this stuff, and that's why I try and do on my channel. I try and push content that I think would be of interest to people in the Web3 space. It's not always Splinterlands stuff, but I think it's good to have a feeler out there for what's going on, so you're not blindsided by it in the next bull run, and you're like, oh, what is this? Why didn't anyone tell me about this? And it's like, well, we're trying to get the information out there if you're interested, and just to be aware of it, because whether these games succeed or they fail, they all have interesting concepts and ways of doing things in Web3 that are different than Splinterlands in different ways. Now, they're certainly doing some of the things that are the same, but I'll give you an example that I ran across the other day that just I thought was interesting. This happens to be Illuvium. It's not Parallel or Metalcore or anything like that, but Illuvium, what they do for their DAO votes and stuff like that, they basically do I don't know what it's called mathematically, but basically they take like if you have one share, like we have one Splinterland shard or one ILV shard, you get one vote.
Okay.
And if you had, let's say, I think it's like, what is it? Like, I don't know, 16, ILV or 16 SPS, you don't get 16 votes, you get 4 votes. It's like a exponential reduction.
I see.
So that the more the community has a more powerful vote of the broader community than the whales. Meaning that if you own like 30 million of a token, you don't basically say what happens in the game. You have a higher percentage, but it's not 30 million. It's like, the square root of 30 million or whatever. It's like, whatever. I forget the exact, I think it's like a 4. It's a power of 4 that it goes down by. But the point is that, they do some things to kind of give you stake weighting, but not, it's kind of like a blend, a balance, right? So it's not like the whales control all the votes, but they control, not an exponential majority of it. And, some of the things they're doing in the DAO is interesting. And some of the things I wouldn't agree with necessarily, but they have 2 communities or 2 councils there, and they pay their council members, which they elect for 9-month cycles. Their one council, they pay $5,000 US a month to 4 people for 9 months out of the DAO treasury. To do stuff for the game, basically, right? And their smaller council, they pay $1,500 US per month to 5 people to help, do stuff for the game, for the DAO. So they literally have, I think it's either 8 or 9 elected individuals for a period of months that get paid by the DAO a substantial amount per month to focus on game stuff. Now, people in Illuvium would say that's not working well, again, necessarily, but that's what one Web3 project is doing. And it's good to see what projects are doing, how they're learning from mistakes, and bring that, into our community to say, oh, this is not working, let's not do that. Or this is working, maybe we look at, adopting something like that in the future. So having that visibility to what's going on in the space, I think is just generally good. If you want to stay informed and, ahead of the game.
I think there's exciting future for Web3 gaming, and I don't know where the winners will be. I know that I've found 6 Years of Joy in Splinterlands, and I'm, I was listening to, who was it? Oh man, I just watched him today. His name escapes me right now. He was going through and doing a bunch of buys, different cards, and he's like, you know what? He said this. He's like, I know some people are gonna say like I shouldn't buy Splinterlands cards right now. These prices are low, but they could go lower. But I just love this game, and I'm here. Win or somebody used this phrase and I love it. Zero or hero. Like I'm here. It's a zero or hero, and that's how I feel, man. But somehow, if I could scratch and claw a little bit of time to go peek at some of these other things and find my foot in there, I'd love to, because I do actually scratch and touch different things, mostly Hive, other games. I haven't ever played a game where I was like, I need to play that. So if there's a game like that out there, if that's Illuvium or Parallel, I would, I'd find time, I suppose, especially to cover it, because I keep hearing about Atlas, whatever, Earth or whatever. I don't know, man. I just again, it's just, there's only so much time, and there's too many games, and I don't just want yield. I want some level of entertainment. Like you said, it has to be fun, or it won't survive. And some people will say, "But Splinterlands is not fun." That's not my experience, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I've been here, and that's why I'll be here. I don't know, man. Maybe it's already been an hour. I did tell the wife I'd wrap up. I thought 30 to 40 minutes. Maybe we should wrap it there. But dude, that was I I think that was good. Do you feel like you said everything you wanted to?
No, I think it's good. I think we covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure there'll be some conversation and chatter.
Yeah,
If you ever want to get together in the future and talk about Splinterlands, happy to hop on, as our schedules permit, and
totally.
do it again in the future. No problem.
Absolutely. And yeah, thanks guys for your time and attention. Have an amazing day.